A lot of grounds to cover this morning, so let's just get straight into it. Mike Igini joins us this morning. He is a resident electoral commissioner with INEC. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here.
Well, we just finished a conversation on security, as you know, and it's something that's also been on the table with INEC, what with the attacks on facilities and personnel of INEC. The question anyone would want to ask you, first of all, is what's the thinking at INEC to protect lives and livelihood of your personnel? The process has to be one that gives confidence to the people. So if INEC personnel are not secure, the people who are going to come out to vote may be a little comfortable themselves.
Well, thank you very much. All over the world, election is one very complex, all-involving activity that nations embark on in peacetime. Therefore, the spate of attacks, particularly since last year on INEC facility, have been very concerning. Particularly what happened last week in Imo State, where some of our staff, one of them was killed, two were adopted, but eventually were able to secure them, are very worrisome developments. And it shows clearly, for instance, that of Imo State, ignorance at play. I listened to one of the audio of one of the gunmen when he was saying that, look, they are talking about referendum, yet INEC is talking about election. But does he know that in this country, it is only INEC that had the sole responsibility, duty, by law, to conduct election and referendum. So even the referendum you are calling for, why are you attacking the only body that is responsible for that if it's called for? So you could see that ignorance is at play.
Is that something INEC is also considering, a referendum?
Not at all. I'm only telling you statutorily under the law. If not for ignorance, if you are calling for either election or for referendum, which body is responsible for that? Why destroy or kill INEC staff? Why destroy INEC properties? Because if you are going to do a referendum, just like in elections, all those voter cards, the equipment, the beavers that were destroyed are the very equipment that will be used for social and exercise. But that is just by the way. Going to 2023 election, the issue of security is very, very key. And security agency will really have to be up to their game. The job of INEC is to conduct election in an atmosphere that's free for people to come out. Because to maintain, sustain the confidence of the people, calling them on election day, it must be done in an atmosphere of security. And so, this week, we are going to have a meeting of the commission. All 36 states we are going to meet, and we'll continue our engagement with the ICED, Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security. So, issues of security, they have to deal with that.
Is there anything that you, in INEC, the commission may have seen as the reason for an upsurge of violence during elections in Nigeria? Is there something that has been discovered as a reason which could be useful to security agencies to get ahead of it?
Well, security challenges during elections are of different dimensions. First, as we are going for 2023, particularly with just about 45 days left for political parties to conduct their primaries that will end by June 3rd, where they are expected to submit the names of their candidates. The concern here and the call for all stakeholders with respect to aspect of security is that we call for absolute security neutrality. it will be unfair that aspirants who are seeking the ticket of their respective political parties, that one candidate or group of candidates will be given security, direction, and control over others. That will poison the path to 2023 elections.
But can you really rule that out?
That is wrong. It should be ruled out. And our call here, because if you add that level of insecurity, in addition to the fact that across the country, and this is tragic, you now, beyond having people who rent crowds for some of these campaigns you see around, we also have association of thugs in Nigeria. Within states, they are also engaged for interstate thuggery services, as you would have seen, I mean, in 2019, while a number of them were brought from Edo State to Akwa Ibom State.
Did you say association of thugs?
They have, look, first, you should know by now that we have association of a group of people who are in the business of renting crowds for campaigns. And that is why most of these huge number of people you see, they are mere facade. They rent the crowd. What you need to do, you just call them. They will ask you how many seater buses. If it's 18-seater buses, they make the calculation for you. In fact, you'll be surprised that on the day one party or two parties are having campaigns simultaneously in different areas of the state, at different times, the same set of people you find here, they will go to the other area. In the same vein, you also have thugs across the country. This is the problem introduced by politicians, the very people, many of whom never raised a finger when the journey of Nigeria and the prospect of democracy was less certain. But today, who are beneficiaries are also the greatest threat to our democracy. So security is a very serious issue as we go for 2023 election.
I'd like us
But beyond that,
okay,
are far more serious issues that we need to focus on.
Okay, just a moment. I need you to clear the air on something you raised. When you said that, security advantage should not be given to one over the other. But in the case of an incumbent, for example, who's seeking re-election, definitely the incumbent has the powers or the authorities, as it were, over security operatives. So how can you rule that one out? Because it's been said that, they use the executive powers to muzzle others. So how do we rule that out?
First and foremost, apart from Osun, Ekiti, Edo, Anambra, Ondo states, there will be elections in all other states of the Federation. So most of them, they are already in their final tenure in office. The security we are talking about here is not about those who are statutorily entitled to.
I see.
All right? But we are talking about even those who are not even statutorily entitled to, but have now been given security for their control and their direction during their own primary, within their own party, level. Then after that, when they have become candidates, because we are the level of people being aspirant, when they become candidates at the level of inter-party election, that should not happen. We need the absolute neutrality.
Okay.
First of my commission, and we stand tall and mighty in defense of that, and do the right thing at all times. So also, we need the absolute neutrality of security. This is very, very important, because with the trinity of the 6 critical stakeholders in elections, INEC, judiciary, and security, most of the worry tendencies of our political elite will be taken care of.
We're due for a break in 2 minutes, Mr. Igini. I'd like us to scratch the surface. Security on the one hand. What would you say is your biggest concern as we approach the 2023 elections? Yes, we've talked about security, but for you, aside that, what is the biggest challenge? Yeah.
My biggest concern going for 2023 election is what we want to make of 2023 elections. With respect to kind of the message, what message are we giving to voters? What should they vote for in 2023? But I'm going to make this very clear, that because of the fundamental flaws of liberal democracy, as recognized by Part 1, Section 2 of the Electoral Act, the Commission, like all other stakeholders, have been enjoined to educate Nigerians, civic and voters education on democracy and sound knowledge of democratic processes. Because the basic assumption of liberal democracy is that the people will make informed choice. The question is, in an environment where the level of literacy is so low, when poverty is high, as have been identified through various research, that poverty and the level of literacy will determine the kind of choice that we will make. Consequently, we have a duty to educate Nigerians. And what kind of education do we have to say, particularly from the point of view of umpire?
If you don't mind me pausing you there, what kind of education will the people be needing? What are the things, what are the questions that are crucial for the voter to ask before employing the next set of people? Let's deal with that when we return from this break. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Well, Mr. Mike Igini is still with us here. Well, you talked about the things that are crucial, issues that are crucial for the voter.
Right.
And I think that's one of the questions that a number of people really need to answer. What, in your opinion, are the real issues that voters should focus on in the build-up to this election? It's a general election. We're employing a new president, we're employing another set of lawmakers, new governors in a number of cases, and members of the Houses of Assembly. So what are the issues?
Thank you very much. The greatest promise of democracy is periodic election. That it gives opportunity for a people to renew the journey of their country. To also renew the journey, the policies, the ideas, and the individuals who have involved those policies. That's the greatest promise of democracy. But for you to participate actively in what we call collective self-governance, which is what election is all about, first and foremost, you have to register. Because you cannot participate in the exchange of garments, ceremony of exchange of garment, without wearing a garment. So the first message to the Nigerian people is that go and register. But in registering, I want to quickly put this out there, that I have seen, I have read, I've got questions from people about our electoral data. First, beyond Osun and the other states I have mentioned, the governorship election will take place in other states of the Federation. So today we still have 36 states of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That has not changed. The 109 Central District, there will be election. INEC will conduct the election in the 360 Federal House. And of course, there will be election also. And this election will take place in the 774 local government in the entire 8,809 RA or wards as called at the state level. This is where election will take. All data have not changed. What has changed is the expansion of polling unit to give Nigerians access to vote on election day. So from 119,000 plus, we are now having a total of 176,846 polling units. This polling unit are spread across the Federal Republic. In all the states, people should patronize them. So we are hearing about people going to court, going to ask for this, increasing that, and all of that. Our data have not changed. That is the situation. Now, for voter registration, which is very key, I just made the point that, look, for you to participate, forget about what you hear from politicians. They are going to get serious shock in 2023. And I use the opportunity to thank the National Assembly, all stakeholders, and the President for signing into law the 2022 Electoral Act.
But these are the politicians as well.
Now, yes, of course. What has been signed into law is a collective effort of all of us, despite the back and forth. What is now clear is that we have a legal instrument, but we know that the next phase or challenge will be implementation, because the devil usually is in the implementation. We are going to deal with that. But far more important is the fact that by virtue of Part 1, Section 2 of the Act, the Commission, like all other stakeholders, we are enjoined to educate Nigerians on very important information. And here, we must make separation here. May a day never come when an umpire will tell voters who to vote for, which party to vote for. That's clearly outside the remit of an umpire. However, because when you have a democracy with weak and attenuated participation, where the level of literacy is low, where poverty is a challenge, we have a duty to say that in going to 2023, what are you going to vote for? So far, so good. The conversation we are hearing in the country are really not about issues that matter to the Nigerian people. I dare say here, religion, ethnicity will not bring food to the table of the average Nigerians. Therefore, in 2023, the following issues are the issues that should define the 2023 election, because 2023 election is an election for what we call new elite formation. New elite formation. And from this month to next month, the next 45 days, we are going to see more of the disarray of the political elite. We hope they can get a level of consensus, even though we know that at the moment, as you hear them, there are no pillars of consensus, even on the idea of consensus. But however, what is key here is this. There is a report to the effect that by 2030, tagged the next generation projects, which shows that over 40% of Nigerians, or less than that, are under 50. And that only 3% of Nigeria above retirement age, 60 years and above. Which means that by 2030, Nigeria has been ranked as one of the countries in the world that will be having the highest number of young people. Therefore, 2023, we should be talking about argument, debate on education, infrastructure, security, energy, health, economy, job creation. Who can speak to these issues? And I give an example of Obama. In the 2012 second term election, Mitt Romney challenged Obama, and he came up with fantastic programs. But the American people asked a question. Could you please tell the American people how you will fund these projects? Mitt Romney said he was going to clean up some leakages will be blocked.
Right.
They went for that to ask him, could you tell us these leakages and what will it amount to? Therefore, Mitt Romney could not answer the question. That's what ended the campaign. So, 2023, Nigeria should, the voters, look out for who can answer the how and the means to do it question. But it's not about, I will do this, I will do that. We have been hearing that over time.
Mr. Igini,
this is a very important civic and voters education for Nigerian people.
And that's the question.
We need to have a debate on that.
Is this also within,
by adopting the Korea method, the South Korea method? I will go into that.
So, is this also within the jurisdiction, the purview of INEC? And that's how you started, saying that, well,
Part 1.
There's a line. So how do you know which line to cross then?
Part 1, Section 2 of the 2022 Electoral Act enjoins INEC to conduct civic voters education and to educate Nigeria and promote sound knowledge of democracy. What is democracy? Democracy is about people coming together to vote during an election. And in voting, don't forget, I don't vote by virtue of my position. It is those of you who will vote that will determine the kind of life myself, my family will live. So when the law says we should educate Nigerians, because it's recognized that education is key, because what rational choice? I mean, you could see the epidemic of vote buying in Nigeria today.
Well, Mr.
When
Igini,
you sell your vote, and that means that you must not sell your vote, but rather listen to somebody who will speak to the issue that matter to you.
Mr. Igini,
that's what we are saying.
Mr. Igini,
these
issues that are not new. What you're saying now has been said since 1999, and it has always been INEC's job, along with that of political parties, to educate the voter. I recall a statement credited to you recently, where you said our problem is not about insufficient registered voters. This is not the main problem, but the inability of political parties and candidates to deliver on promises upon which voters draw faith in democracy. You also remember, of course, that we have had a gradual reduction of the number of people who come out to vote for that same reason that you cited. So how is this voter education going to change that?
Yes, it's going to change it, because what we have heard over the years, I will do this, I will do that, I will revamp this. Okay, for instance, let's take for instance, you see, one of the beauty of democracy, when you have conversation, debate, because the whole essence of political party and all of that, is that you represent a distinct vision, a common good, and political party become a platform for the people to interpret the common good. Therefore, voters' education in this sense is to the effect that the moment you begin to speak to the issue that matter to them, they will be excited to want to come and vote.
But these issues don't come up.
Just a
second.
Yes.
These issues don't get raised at the primaries, and that is where the choices come up for the people. The people are left to whichever choices the political parties throw up. So at that point already, isn't it a little too late for us to be saying, you know, go choose anyone? It's only at that point that we have debates. We don't have such debates. Or are you saying that we should begin to have such debates at the political parties level?
That is what I am saying. Because Joseph Skopita made the point that in a democracy, who becomes a candidate in an election are choices made by people who already have influence and power. That in the final analysis, the choices the general populace is called to make on election day are choices already made by the political parties. Therefore, at this level where they are aspirants, the message now is that speak before you select, you elect. Take somebody as your flag bearer, whether as a state house of assembly, governorship, and all the positions, senatorial, and all of that. Ask those questions. That is the Korean method. What we have been lacking, Ayo, over the year we'll be hearing about promises. But we have not been interrogating those, pin every aspirant down.
How is that going to happen?
Pin them down.
Mr. Igini, how is that going to happen? With the talk of, okay, in the new law, we have direct primaries, indirect primaries, and consensus. We know that a good number of times a particular political party has always gone the consensus way, and there has hardly been any such interrogation, just as you have talked about. And at many of these, situations, they have indirect primaries, and just from one of the political parties who understand just about 7,800 people are going to represent all of their party members in the political party to choose the candidate of their choice. So at what point will this interrogation happen? Before the convention or during the convention?
It should be happening now. And this message we are giving because we shall meet in Philippi. The Philippi where we are going to meet, it has to do with robust system that INEC has put in place. You could see that in 2011, voters' turnout was 39%. And we had about 73-point-something million registered voters. That was the point I made. That the problem is not that we don't have sufficient people who are registered. All right? 2015, it dropped down to 30%. In 2019, voter turnout was 28%. it shows that there's a disengagement from the process. You know, I have made an allusion to the Urobo saying, which means that it is what the axe does for the farmer that makes him put it on the shoulder. At the moment, political class are not rallying the people on issues that matter to them. And that is why you see that going down. But the shocker is this, and that's why we are so thankful collectively to all stakeholders, that by virtue of Section 47 of the Electoral Act, that had made accreditation, the use of the beavers on any other electronic device that we have procured in place, all the era of invidious moonslide, landslide, as you will have seen, you look at the trend of the voters' turnout that you have seen over time, you could see how it's been going. Two, today, by virtue of Section 50, that has given the Commission total operational independence to determine the procedure, we are very good at that. Section 51, that previously, where the total number of votes cast exceeds the total number of accredited voters, rather than based on either accredited numbers or total number of PVC collected, the previous law was that it was based on total number of registered voters, which means that if actually in a polling unit where you have just 200 registered voters and actually only 70 people showed up, the calculation is based on total number. So which means that people can sex up, can rig, all of that have been stopped. But the tragedy is that most of the people who are in politics, they are not following what INEC is doing. They are still deceiving themselves.
And it's hoped that they are listening.
They are deceiving themselves.
They are listening right
now.
Look,
buying of PVC is useless.
At this point now.
Buying of PVC, all the people that they have a warehouse, they are all useless. When I say useless, to the extent that they are valid, they can be used, but to the extent that it's only those individuals that can use those PVC and not anymore, that you have wasted your resources. But the greatest problem we are having now, if you look at our current CBR, as I speak to you, we have printed well over 1.8 million PVC for the first part of it, the second, and we are now in the first and second quarter, the third quarter, and the ongoing fourth quarter that we end finally by June 30th. All right, finally by June 30th, will also be made available. But the one of the first quarter, that's from June 2021 down to December, they are ready for collection. But what you will have seen from our data is that politicians are still encouraging people or individuals believing that INEC will not detect their multiple registration. We have now acquired a new system. We have moved from the AP system to what we call the AB system,
which is
the
why
automated biometric system that we now have.
And that's why we saw the over 1 million being
that's what we now have. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. That's what led to the over 1 million. So, but I need to make a clarification here.
Okay, quickly.
On the social media, what the chairman said as declared as invalid registration were those who are not about PVC. It is not PVC that's invalid, but registration that were multiple could not pass the post-business rule, that could not pass the ABS, and those that are incomplete have now been declared invalid.
So everyone with a PVC?
If you have registered before, if you have lost your PVC, right, if it is defaced, and you want to transfer, you don't need to register again. All you need to do is to go to our offices across the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and once you measure your name, it's entered into the system, it will be detected. But the ABs we have right now is not only dealing with fingers, it now deals with your facial recognition. And that is why well over 1 million have been declared invalid, and not our permanent voter's card.
I think that's a very important clarification to make. Let's custom now. I think this is a notch higher than the usual conversation we have with INEC, and I'm glad this talks to the issues to be raised for the average voter out there. But as we wind down, I understand that your tenure in INEC is coming to its twilight. Am I right?
Yes, everything that has a beginning must have a terminal end.
And there were controversies.
Sometimes before the end of the year, I'll be saying goodbye.
Well, it's very interesting. I know there were debates and controversies about whether or not the commissioners now have civil society background and all of that. Are you worried about that as well? Because it would seem you have quite a following in INEC.
You see, no human being is indispensable. When we have opportunity to make our contribution, we make our contribution, whether in and out of office. This is our country. We have no other country but this country. We'll continue to make our contribution. And so, there are people there who will deliver. And good enough, we are happy that we have a legal template to achieve this. And that will be done.
Okay.
And I call on everybody to support, play your part in order to build a society where there will be opportunity for all and responsibility for all. Because the broad outline of the 21st century is very clear. It offers opportunity for people who can live together, who can make changes in order to avoid the chaos of decline and decay. So, the legal instrument is so powerful. And as you all know, optimism of collective social action is natural to human beings. And the law is the prime instrument. I call on my colleagues, level of the judiciary, you must stand tall.
Okay. Well, we could...
Pardon me, there's just one more question. I'm tempted to ask this. 10 seconds. So what's next for you, Mr. Igini, after this? I mean, it's been a ride with INEC.
The beauty about being in public office is that you must have somewhere to go to.
5 seconds more.
I am a lawyer.
So
my chamber is there.
Not politics.
All right, I have a fixed address. And not people who don't have a fixed address. That's the problem we are having today in our country.
Not politics, Mr. Igini.
Oh, no, not politics. My office is there.
Okay. Well, for now, we'll hold you to that. Of course, I understand that there have been some INEC officers who...
Well, he said not here.
Cross-carpeted.
It's quite a ride with INEC, I must say.
Well, Mike Igini, Resident Electoral Commissioner for INEC, thank you so much for your time and the education this morning. Well...